What's up, Line Golf Academy members and guests, and welcome back to another video. And today it's amateur hour. Well, not really amateur hour, but amateur 10 minutes. We're gonna look at some videos today and learn about cause and effect, and maybe you'll be able to see your swing in these. And if you do, go see a golf pro right away. We'll help you out. The reason we have this channel is to help educate you on cause and effect, to identify some problems. And yes, there's some good advice on YouTube, but it's most likely not going to help for you because you are as individuals and fingerprints. And really, the only thing that can help out is some educated eyes. So if you do like this, hit that like, share, subscribe. It'll really help get information to golfers out there in similar situations such as yourself. That is a tongue twister. And lastly, if you really want to go above and beyond, we are offering channel memberships starting at 99 cents, and that money goes straight to the children in the Hill Hood Foundation in Cape Flat, South Africa. But enough of this nonsense. Let's watch some amateur golf swings and see why they do things and why you might be able to learn from them. Right, so the first gentleman on the screen, we're just going to watch this swing over and over and take a look. You might recognize some of this. It is a common problem I see in a lot of amateurs, and this happens because we're just not able to hit as many golf balls as we want. We have families and jobs, and you know the works. It takes a lot of time to get a swing down, but we can definitely help with some cause and effect. We can look at impact. We can see what we're trying to do, but most of these issues I'm going to show you today can be addressed with the setup, ball position, and posture at the start of your swing, because that is the key to most golf swings. But let's just go straight to the top of this swing, and we're going to pause it right about here, and we can see that the arms are trying to do a really good job of staying out in front of the chest. We see the wrists. You see that wrist motion here? That's a little bit too much. Now as we come on down through, we can already see a plane issue. I mean, this plane is sticking straight down to the ground, so he has to do something to accommodate that. And I don't know why my angle tool picked up, but we're going to use it anyway, so I'm glad it did. But to get that club to drop severely down into the plane, to give him a fighting chance, what we see here is a little posture loss, and the arms are going out away from the body and dropping that club inside. So it's mostly hand manipulation from here. Now when you have this position and the club falls in that dramatic position, the club head's going below the plane. Now the hands are going out and away from the body, which affects your path. We can see that this impact position, watch the golf ball, the ball is going to fly off in this direction here, and you can see it come out just by that arrow. And this is a block with a club face open, so path is right, club face is right, everything is right and right. You can see releasing, there's not much release going on here. The toe does roll over slightly. You can see it's a lot of manipulation, but the great news is look at the hands. The hands are still pretty much in front of the chest, which is awesome. So what we're going to do first is let's diagnose what's going on at impact and see if there's any changes. Let's do this in red. Let's go to the top of the swing and see the shoulder tilt number, and we're going to again eyeball this as best as we can. So there's the shoulder tilt number, so 23 degrees of tilt, and we can see right just after impact, right in that position, we can see that the shoulders are still remaining fairly level to that top plane. Now he does get about 10 degrees of tilt, which is okay. So we can see that the right shoulder is trying to tilt down, which is what we want. So what is causing this? Let's back it up to the beginning and take a look at his posture and how the weighting affects the impact position, specifically with the arms. So let's right off the bat draw the spine angle and see, do we lose spine angle? Top of the swing right about here, you can see the loss of spine angle. So there's the new spine angle. So definitely weight issues. So we have to look at the footwork. Let's go back down to impact. Let's look at the footwork. So the left leg is spinning around its toes, so you can see some inefficient weight distribution. So a lot of this might just be rotating from the hips without any weight drive. So I don't see much pushing to the left side, which will also get the shoulders to tilt initially. So we don't see a lot of tilting initially, but we do see that tilting at impact and past impact. So we are trying to make the right moves, but maybe not the right sequence. But let's take a look at this back brace line, because that's the most important line, is how much posture loss do we have going into impact. So you see a clear posture loss. The hips are clearly moving towards the toes. Now remember, let's take a look at where he's stacked up to begin his swing, and this is what posture can do to you. So if we draw that that spine angle again. And remember, this is all eyeballing, it's not exact. And if we draw his club plane, we can see where those cross. That's basically where the center of his swing is. Now let's do this next line in our favorite Barney Purple. We're going to go from the arches of his feet straight up to the sky, so we can see that that is nowhere near the centerness, so his hips are not supporting the center. It's so toe heavy that there's very little he can do, but the hips will try to find the center point. So let's take a look as he gets down to impact right there. And look at this. Guess what the hips just found? So the hips found the center point of his swing. So if your center point starts too far back, you will find it as you go into impact, which will cause a lot of issues at impact. For him, it's what we call shaft humping, for lack of better words, and that causes plane issues, which will then cause the hands to recompensate and drop down the slot really fast, and you can't release it. You block it. This could be a rope hook too if the hands get too involved, but a simple setup change. So if this was my student, we'd be looking at getting those feet more underneath the hip joint. We can do it two ways. We can put our feet closer to join the hip joint, or we can feel like we're sitting back on our heels slightly, which will also bring the golf ball closer, the hands closer, etc., etc. So what you can learn from this swing is we don't look at impact, we don't look at the top of the swing, we look at the cause, why he is breaking down, and then address that cause and get him to hit from there. So grip, aim, setup, posture. I'll say that over and over again, but this is the Bible of instruction. Let's see who is next. Okay, next student up. We can start to see some impact position as well. We can start to see weighting on the toes as well. We can see that there is some shoulder tilting, but again, just like the last gentleman, it might be some issues with when those shoulders tilt. How are you getting your weight to the left side? So let's do a similar diagnosis and see if it's the same problem. So we're going to try and eyeball this again, and remember, this is not exact, it's just for educational purposes, but we can get a close indication of what's going on. And right just at impact, look at how much tilt that is. So we can see that the shoulders are definitely tilting down, maybe a little bit too much. So there's 30 degrees of tilt even past the swing. You see it's slightly higher, so even past that swing there, it is down to not too much less, so it's about 25 to 30 degrees of tilting. So definitely can tilt, but again, if we look at the top of the swing, do we see the right shoulder tilting down initially? Not really. We see the arms moving close to the golf ball. So let's do what we did with the other gentleman here, and let's draw some basic lines, and let's do our spine angle line again. We're just going to eyeball this and that back brace line, and let's see, do we lose that at impact? Top of the swing, we're doing a decent job of rotating around a spine angle. As we come on through, we see some weight distribution. We see the left toe is still stuck on that ground. You see that left heel just kind of spinning around right there, especially. You can see that left heel coming up. So again, very stuck on the toes. We don't lose as much posture as the previous gentleman, so we can see he's still trying to fight it, but it is very steep, and the golf club is going definitely left of the target, but not a lot of hip turn activated soon enough. So this could be paired with the centeredness again. Let's draw that center. So once we connect these two, look where the back of the right heel is. It's well past. Back of the left heel is just left of that center point too. So we can see maybe some alignment issues as well. Maybe the feet are pointing right. It's very hard to tell because of the dark clothing we have there, so we can't really see where his shoulders are lined up to, but you have to align everything slightly left of the target. And do we even see where this target is? Let's zoom in on the super radar zoom. Do we even see where the target is? There it is. So there's the target. Let's draw the target in green so we can kind of get an idea of where we are aiming. So there is the target, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure I saw a flag there. So let's now zoom back out and see where we are aiming. So the feet, if we draw a line from the feet, let's do this in Barney Purple, we can see that the feet are definitely right of that. The hips and the shoulders, I'm not sure. It's very hard to tell. The shoulders definitely also seem like everything's pointing slightly right of that target. So when it's slightly right, what do we have to do? We have to kind of pull back across so we can see that there is definitely a pull going on there, and that golf ball definitely starts slightly right of the target. I'm pretty sure it pulled over. We can see some hand manipulation past impact, but again, where is that weight supported? That's the key. we need to get the support of the feet underneath the hips. So maybe this one we can back up the feet a little bit and sit more in our heels so we get the weighting underneath the feet, underneath the hips. And from there we work on rotation, we work on sequencing, weight distribution. Don't forget that weight distribution, ladies and gentlemen. You need weight distribution. Without weight distribution, you're just going to be spinning. And spinning, you can definitely do it. There are some people on tour that do a lot of spinning, but remember, they're on tour because they've been playing golf for 40 years since they were 1 year old, coming out their mom's womb with a golf club and a tee in their hand saying, where's the golf course and what's the course record? Most of us are not like that. We just don't have that lifestyle to choose. So remember, again, grip, aim, setup, posture. Let's see who's next. Okay, next up on the screen, we see somebody that looks like a pretty decent starting point in terms of the weighting, but what can we see during impact? We can see a lot of lower body thrusting, trying to drive something over, and we can definitely see some posture loss, weight distribution going into the golf ball, which will cause some playing issues. Plus, he looks like he's a very tall, strong gentleman, and I love high hands. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to learn how to utilize the high hands correctly and keep them connected. So let's start by checking where the weight is supported. And we're going to do this in our favorite Barney Purple, because what is a video without favorite Barney Purple? So let's draw the lower plane line and the upper plane line and the heels straight through. And where's that spine angle? It's pretty close to being connected. So all in all, it looks pretty good in terms of weighting. Maybe shift the body slightly forward to get a little bit of the weight in the front part of your feet. But all in all, pretty decent. And when we take that club back, let's see, do we keep that club on track? So already the hands are lifting up and disconnecting from the core. And we can see some shoulder tilting is matching the spine. So that's pretty decent. And the hands are very high. So if this was my student, hey, we can make that work, but we have to keep the hands out in front of the chest. So we can already see that club is way past parallel. Now that means that the club is disconnected and gotten closer to the torso. And when it gets closer to the torso, you have to throw your hands back out in front of that torso. And plus rotate, that may create some issues. So we see the hands getting thrown back out in front of the torso, which creates a very steep motion because we're trying to throw it out and rotate from a high position. Very hard to do. Most of the times your club will venture into this territory, and that is death, because from there it is just going to be pulls with the short irons, blocks with the long irons, rope hooks or banana balls with the longer clubs. And we can see he does a decent job of rotating. But remember, because those hands are being pushed out in front, there's going to be momentum involved, and when there's momentum involved, the hands release the club face sooner, and when it releases sooner, the club length gets longer. So we start to stand up to make accommodations. We're making room. There's a hotel sign that says no vacancy, and we say, oh, you know what? Let me stand up and make some vacancy for you. And there goes the hands flipping, releasing, finishing low and left with a high finish. So we can see he tries to keep those hands nice and high, but we got to get those hands connected. So besides a pretty decent motion at the top of the swing, so we get those hands more out in front of us. They can be high, but keep them more out in front of your chest. And this top position, we can start working on weight distribution. So there's a lot of turn, but there's no drive. And let's look at the shoulder tilting numbers before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go to the top of the swing and let's look at the shoulder tilt. Let's do this in our second favorite color, Ninja Turtle Green. And we're going to see that tilt. That's a pretty big tilt there, 52 degrees. As we come on down into impact, we can see just past impact, it's about the same, maybe slightly more, 53 degrees. So we definitely have some tilting issues. So it's very hard to tilt the upper body while that lower body's spinning out, because we're just not built like Gumby. To do that, you have to compress the lower back. There's not enough room, and you run into each other. So one will cause the other. We have to get those feet grounded. We have to learn about weight distribution to allow the room for the right shoulders to tilt earlier, and get some tilting to help you come from the inside so you can rotate and tilt and also release the club naturally. So if this looks like you, go see one of us to help you out. Let's see the final amateur of this quick 10-minute education. Let's watch amateur number 4. So we don't see a lot of aggression here, which is nice and smooth. We see a little bit of playing issues. We see the club laying off and then kind of flipping over at the end. How's the rotation? Rotation's decent. We see some distribution issues with the feet, almost like the weight is stuck on the heels. So let's do our patented setup check. All right, let's get these plane lines going. We got the lower plane line, the upper plane line. Let's do this quick little spine angle, eyeball check right through the spine. A little back brace line just to throw that in there. And the arches of the heels right about here. So wow, that's pretty good. It still, however, looks a little crammed. So if this was my student, I'd get them to move the ball a few golf balls away from themselves, get a little bit of a forward lean to create some spacing here, maybe increase this long spine angle so it's a little bit more down in this direction to help with the hand path. But let's take a look as we take that club back, what is going on. So already hands going up and out, shoulders do a decent job. They're kind of flattened out in relation to that spine angle. So when you flatten out your shoulders, the hands do typically go up, which makes sense. And we get those hands to the upper plane line, but relative to where they should be a little bit higher, because if you look at the shoulder tilt, if that shoulder tilt was, let's do this in a different color so it's not so confusing. So here's the current shoulder tilt. So if we can get the new shoulder tilt to increase slightly so it matches the spine angle, this will also raise the hands a little bit higher and will allow the club to not be laid off, to feel like it's catching in that lower plane line. So that would be my first move with the student. But let's take a look at impact, what's going on from the laid off position. He feels that, and now his arms are slightly lower than they need to be. And from here, there's not much he can do. There's not much to turn. So there's a little static turn. The tilting is definitely there. So we can see there's his new tilt. Let's get our favorite little measuring stick out here. It's 47. Let's go to the top and see where it was. So yeah, we definitely see some increase of tilting. So it went from slightly flat to slightly steep. Wow, 25 degrees. And again, that's eyeball. So let's just call it 20 degrees. So you definitely have the ability to tilt, but something is going on. And because that club is laid off, there is definitely hand manipulation, which will affect the rotation because your hands are too busy trying to get that club back on plane instead of being flat. And that is what's causing a lack of rotation, because your hands do need some room to move through. So at impact, you can see not a lot of lower body rotation, kind of stuck. It almost looks like your address position. And now look at this, you get the rotation. So this is sequencing. This is again weight distribution. This is proper setup. And again, it's hard to tell where the ball position is from this view, but ball position also plays a part. So I hope that really helps you, ladies and gentlemen, to realize that every golf swing is very unique. No two swings are alike, so no two swing thoughts should work for multiple people. It is all an individual journey. So if you do like this, hit that like, share, subscribe. We'll get more of these amateur contents up there, along with our weekly PGA, LPGA swing analysis video. So I will see you then, fairways and greens.